So what I find interesting is that gaming, I think, as a lot of us know, is probably the largest entertainment category on earth. But I think what's fascinating is that the fastest growth is no longer coming from the West. And there is this sort of dramatic shift we're seeing in terms of the center of gravity really changing, with the Middle East and North Africa really trying to position themselves as a brand new hub. What does it take to create an entire gaming ecosystem from scratch?
Well, first let me start by saying thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for all coming out to see me. It's good to see a full house, not nerve-wracking at all. But there's so much that needs to be done to get Saudi to where we want to be as a global gaming hub. First and foremost, it starts with education, making sure from a school and university level, our young men and women are taught the tools where they can take over this industry, giving an atmosphere then to be able to create startups, to create visions, to create IPs, to create stories. Because one of the interesting things that I think often gets mislooked or overlooked is all over the world stories have been told. And two regions that still have stories to hear or that have not been told internationally are the Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa. And that's right where we are, in that where the birth of civilization was, and where that birth of history and the dearth of stories that are there that haven't been told, I think is very exciting. And giving our young men and women the tools to start to tell those stories from their point of view, I think is something we're very excited about. And then creating a long-term plan on how to become sustainable. And we're not just looking for one unicorn to pop up and then we're done with our job. We want this to be something that continues, not after 2030, but after the year 3000.
So what does the strategy look like then? I mean, I assume that part of it means, investing heavily in already sort of large established gaming companies, so Nintendo, Activision, Blizzard, I'm sure Take-Two as well, but also investing in startups. But you also have to really try to nurture a domestic industry as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the investment in the international companies through Savvy Games Group and through the PIF have been amazing. Getting a foothold on the global stage, being a part of the global community of games development. But that has to be coupled with what we're doing on the ground. We just signed an agreement as Savvy Games Group with the Ministry of Education to launch educational programs across all universities in Saudi Arabia and across all schools in coding, which I believe should be taught as a language. The same way you teach English and Arabic in schools in Saudi, you should be taught coding. To give young men and women the opportunity, and depending on the university and their history or what their specialization is. I mean, for example, we have a program at Princess Noura University, Art for Gaming. We have a program at King Faisal University for game development. At King Fahd Petroleum University on the engineering behind game development and the coding and So trying to make sure that there's the tools available for the young men and women, and then really to create the atmosphere where we can get out of their way and let them create, and let their creative juices get going, and create that mythology like Marvel that can hopefully come out of our region to the world.
A statistic that I loved, and if I'm honest, I was quite surprised by it, is that 40% of the employees working in gaming overall in Saudi Arabia are women. 40% of the employees for Savvy Games Group are women. 20% of esports players in Saudi are women. Explain why.
Well, I'll start with the games industry first. I've talked to a lot of our young ladies that are in the industry and asked them, why did you come out? Why did you join this industry? Was it a passion for gaming? And for many of them it was, but for some of them, very interestingly, they saw the games industry in Saudi as not a male-dominated industry like oil and gas and banking and some other things. And so they thought they had an opportunity to gain a foothold and build a career, which is interesting to me because everywhere else in the world, it very much is a male-dominated industry. With esports, it was different though. I was very lucky. Coming out of COVID, we had a champion, Najd Al-Fahad. She won the Intercollegiate World Championship in FIFA. And as soon as she won, we put her everywhere, on our Twitter, on Instagram. We had interviews with her on TV. And she became a showcase to all the young ladies in Saudi and all the families that this is a valid career path for you. And once they saw someone that they could identify with that was succeeding, they came out in droves, and they still are coming out. I mean, 20% of our professionals are young ladies now. We had last year in 2025, I think 13 gold medals. 4 of them were from our young ladies as well, between the Asian Games, the Youth Asian Games, the Arab Games, and different tournaments internationally. And we are using that as a platform for our young ladies to keep being a part of this. Our community is roughly 49% male, and 49% female, 51% male. And all of them deserve the opportunity, and they're all taking the opportunity. And that's the most important thing. It's not just making the opportunities available, but that they're coming out and taking the opportunities at every chance they get.
I loved what you said about representation. And then also very interesting that they didn't see gaming as a male-dominated industry. But what do you think the new gaming markets want that established markets or established studios and publishers are not giving them?
Opportunities. Right now, you're very limited when you're doing, especially a AAA game, on where you can create that game because of the budgets, the manpower, the internet capabilities. But what's interesting, what you have now that you've never had before, is the tools are much more egalitarian. With AI and the AI tools available, with the game development tools that are available, you are now able to create a AAA style game at the budget of what was an indie game previously. So the budget is no longer a hindrance. Education for many of these programs is available online. Unreal Engine, for example, does many programs online where you can go in through the engine and learn how to use it. So now it becomes internet access. As that becomes more widespread, that becomes the sole inhibitor for being able to develop and create. But at the base of all of it is an idea. If you have a story, even if you don't have a AAA style game, you will start to be successful. And this is why, while I'm very excited about what we're doing in Saudi, and I think we are getting to a point where we are considered on the global stage as a global region equal to North America, to East Asia and Southeast Asia, I think the next era of growth we will see from sub-Saharan Africa. As internet penetration goes up, the youth is there, the stories are there, the capabilities are there, the opportunity will come with the internet, and you will see an influx of young men and women into this industry that will be a boon to this industry.
As a proud Nigerian, I'm very happy to hear what you said about sub-Saharan Africa. So just in terms, just final question, if you and I are sitting on this stage 10 years from now, what will have changed?
I can almost guarantee if we sit on the stage a week from now, everything will have changed.
Okay, go ahead.
This is an industry that changes on not just a regular basis, but on a daily basis. But I think what I heard a quote from Jeff Bezos that caught my attention the other day. And it was, he said, everyone always asks what will change in 10 years or 20 years, but no one asks what will stay the same. And what will stay the same is IP will be king. So as long as you have a story to tell, you will have a game to make, you will have a comic or a film to make. And 2 is the community. Community right now globally is 3.6 billion people who consider themselves gamers. And every year, as people leave this world and people come into this world, the people coming into this world are going to be gamers. So that is only growing. With, again, advancements in AI, not just in gaming and game development, but in what that means for your daily life, your work life, and the ease of doing business, people are going to have some more leisure time. It's more time to be able to spend gaming. And with the advent of not just free-to-play games where you can get on and play any game, but coming online with things like with cloud gaming and with Web3 gaming, you're now going to start seeing more paid to play, where playing becomes your career, not just as a professional gamer, but just to get on and play games with companies like Sunsoft Sandbox and many others. And I think that's where you'll see us transition, where it not just be mass market, but it'll be people's career to play games, not just play professionally.
Your Royal Highness, thank you so much. Thank you. Round of applause for Your Royal Highness. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I was